Hey guys, I am back for another modding tutorial video for you guys, and in this one I want to try to uh, show you a little bit on how to, well, for one, I wanted to hold up on my promise to give you a tutorial on how to make units persistent or carry over in AOTR's War of the Ring mode. Very short little simple thing, and also how you can add heroes to your fortresses in War of the Ring mode. And this would apply to both vanilla game and AOTR, and for that matter, any other mod. So I'll go ahead and get started with adding heroes. All right, so you're going to want a number of files in this. Right up front, I want to just show you here what you got to have. You're going to want living world buildings.ini, LOTR.str. You want your unit INI. In this case, we're going to have Theoden. Living world buildable units.ini, or .inc, I should say in this case. And that's about it. And then later at the end of this episode, I'm going to add a little bonus. I did learn how you can do a couple of things that I was uh, unsure of in the last episode, so I'll go on over there at the end of the episode here. All right, so let's say you wanted to add Theoden to Gondor's hero roster. All right, so with some of these files, they're a little confusing to find, so I'll show you real quick on how you can do that. For your living world buildable units, you would go over to INI, campaigns, common, and it's right in here. Living world buildable units, right there. And I always open mine with Notepad. And then the other one, living world buildings, is found in your data INI right down here. Now, for the vanilla games, it's the same idea, but it's not as straightforward. And I'm going to show you exactly why. Alright, so if you were to be playing version 9.0 of ROTWK or earlier, uh, you would have to go to, you would think that you would go to the patch file, as we've discussed in previous episodes. But check this out. Data INI, you should be finding living world build or buildings right here, but it's not here. You would actually have to go over to, let's see, your ini.big file right here in the main directory for wherever you have your game installed. You go over to your ini.big. See, here's where your 9.0 patch 1 is, and all the way down to ini.big, and you'd be able to find it pretty fast. It's a different list of files. Be right here, living world buildings. All right, now if you wanted to try to mod your later patches, and I should say, this is 9.0. The default manual way that I installed it, I don't know if it's going to look any different for if you're using the all-in-one launcher installation. But in any case, if you were to go to the all-in-one launcher for 9.5, if that's what you're using, then you could actually go to your patch file. So this is this is what it would look like at the top if you were doing 9.5 or perhaps another version of an earlier patch on the all-in-one launcher. And right here, patch 202, you'd pop that up, and there it is, Living World Buildings. So it's a little confusing, I know, depending on what you're using. Just bear with it. It's just the general principle. I'm not too sure exactly why earlier patches would not have all of them in the patch file. That is what it is, though. Alright, so when you go over to Living World Buildings, right up at the top, you're going to be at the fortress for Gondor. You could just do a quick, simple search, obviously, at this point for any other factions, but we're going to stick with Gondor for simplicity. And you're going to be at the Living World Building, LWB Men Fortress. And if you wanted to add a hero to that, you're going to see a couple of different options here. You're going to see what you can, by default, build from that overworld map building. You got your trebuchet in there. You got your, let's see here, create a hero army. You got Pippin and so on, all the way down. And you can see here that there was a hero at one point that was added. It was taken out. You can tell that by these semicolons over here. So you could actually bring that hero back into being a buildable hero if you wanted to by just removing all those semicolons, including the one here at end. Alright, and then you've got all the way down to Gandalf here. So this is the template to add a new hero. So how do you get to this point here? Well, you got to know a couple of things right offhand. So we're going to head on over to Living World Buildable Units, and you just type in your hero, Theoden, you do a search for him. It'll pop it up, and you have a couple of things here that you got to keep in mind. Mostly, though, it's really just this, Rohan Theoden. So, thing template would go here, and hero template name, Rohan Theoden. Player army would be Theoden player army, right here. Pop that in. Now, the rest, you have to go to your unit I. So, I'm going to pop up Theoden, and that can be found, by the way, over in so you go to Object, AOTR Data I, Object, Good Faction, Units, and Rohan. And he would be right down there. Okay. And over in vanilla, you follow the same idea as I showed you before in the first episode, I believe. Go down to Good Faction, Units, Men, and Theoden right there. Okay. So when you get to your unit INI, in either vanilla or AOTR, what you want to do is you want to type in display name, and you get this, object Rohan Theoden. Okay. It's going to be the same thing as thing template in this case. It's always good to double check it though. The unit INI here is just a very handy way of knowing exactly what that the parameter here in living world buildings should be for hero template name. But you also need to go up to the top of this INI here, and you'll see button image. For any unit INI, it's going to have a button image. In this case, it's this, HI Theoden. And this is where you want to put it. Construct button image, HI Theoden. It's going to be your button when you go to make him on the overworld map. And then up here, you have description strategic, control bar, LW tooltip Theoden. That's going to be for this, construct button help, tooltip Theoden. Now, where would you find this? How would you know where to find something like this? This parameter here, control bar, LW hero Theoden, this is found over in LOTR.str. So go back over, INI, and that can be found in AOTR data right here. And I just right click, open with, and then use Notepad. Okay. Now, all you'd have to do in your case, for whatever unit, you just type in your unit, and it'll give it to you right here. Usually if it's a hero, it's going to be something simple like LW hero, and then the hero's name. Not always. Sometimes you might end up with something more like this, LW tooltip build, and then your hero's name. But overall, it's usually pretty straightforward. Alright, now we've got these parameters all entered here. By the way, so if you want your hero to be an army leader, you would go and make sure that it would follow the parameter of one of your other army leaders up here. You don't want to go up to a non-army leader, obviously, like this, Denethor. This is that parameter here. So you're missing a couple of things. As you can see here, if you compare this to this, okay, the banner is going to be different. Banner men, and of course, hero template name. So if you did, however, you did want to have your hero be a non-army hero, then you just go ahead and follow this and fill it in accordingly. Alright, so now we've got everything in there for including Theoden into it. And then this is also important. This is going to be how many turns you want your unit to take to build. For convenience, we're just going to keep it at 1. As you can see, Gandalf would be 3 turns if you lose him, and you got to get him back. And then if you wanted to have your unit, excuse me, have a smaller build cost, you go back over to your unit INI and put in build cost. Okay, I reduced mine to 1. I think it was default 3000. Can't remember. Some of these units, of course, are going to have a define parameter, like this, in which case you'd go back over to game data in your vanilla, as we've shown many times in this series now, and you just type it in to game data and change it from there. But you'd have to make sure that here in your options for AOTR that the config paths match. As I showed you in the previous episode, you have to keep both of those parameters. Well, they got to match. You got to match where you're modding them. So in this case, I've got my modded file over in drive E for both AOTR and vanilla. So you got to make sure that those two modded files match. Otherwise, you could just simply change Theoden's cost straight from AOTR, and you don't have to worry about the modded file for Rise of the Witch King. Alright, so let's go ahead and pop this up in AOTR and see if you can get Theoden on the overworld map. Alright, here we are. Moment of truth. Boom. There he is. Got him at build time 1 turn. Cost is just 1 for ease and convenience. Let's go ahead and move him into action here. Alright, real-time battle. And there he is.
Be the hour. Make haste.
Alright. And there's different ways that you can add in units that might not otherwise be in the game at all, but I don't really know how to do all of that. I just know how to swap in, units that are already pre-existing in the game. I know that you'd have to go over to like auto-resolve body, for instance, to input auto-resolve data. Like sometimes you can just get away with inputting some INI info like what we've shown, but it'll pop up on the overworld map. You'll see the icon for the unit and all that, but if you don't have auto-resolve data, then it'll crash your game. So unfortunately, I don't know enough about all of that to go into that right now. So one of the other things that I wanted to show you, though, is that bonus that I had mentioned at the beginning of the video here. I had mentioned in the last video how you can change your spellbook recharge times, and I said that I didn't know for sure where to find the War of the Ring spell recharge time. Well, I've since learned where to find that, and you go over to a very unexpected place. Go to Data, INI, AOTR Data, INI, Default, and go down to Water, of all things. So, I've learned that this little spot here, this INI, is one of the last places where the game will process its different functions. And when you go to mod the game, they include that there for convenience. It sounds like I'm not going to pretend like I fully understand a lot of this stuff, but that's basically what I was told. So you go over to Water, you put in War of the Ring spell recharge time, and you can see just for curiosity's sake, I decided that I would compare and contrast. So this is your vanilla recharge time compared to War of the Rings. You can see that the vanilla game is twice as long for the War of the Ring mode for each of these tiers. How about that? It's interesting stuff. So you can make your War of the Ring game a little bit faster by quite a bit, actually. All right. And then how to make persistent units in Age of the Ring mod. I'm going to show you that right now. I'm going to show you how you can use the Age of the Ring mod and make the units in the War of the Ring mode that you train in your real-time battles to carry over into the overworld or living world map, just like you can in the vanilla Rise of the Witch King game. Alright, so here I have a couple of units pulled up already, and you can find those over in the unit INIs, which I show you how to find in episode 1. And I've got the Blackroot Vale Archers in the one category here, and I got Lamedon Clansmen in the other. Now, here's the thing though, you don't go to the unit INI, you go to the Horde INI. So, let me go ahead and pull that up real quick so you have a better idea of what I'm talking about here. Okay, so you go to Data, INI, Object. In this case, I'm in the good faction. I go to Hordes, not units, and men. Now, when you pull these up, it's not going to say the unit name and then Horde along with it, but it is it. As you can see here, this is Blackroot Vale Archer Horde, and that would be the same thing for the Lamedon Clansmen. Alright, now the area that you want to find, you can find it usually at the bottom of each of these pages, but the way that you want to look for it is here. You put in the name of your horde. Exactly, by the way, it is case sensitive. Underscore WOTR, and just like that, again, case sensitive. Here we go. And you'll see this child object. You'll see it looks exactly like this down at the bottom of the page, and kind of equals minus army summary. So what is this army summary? Well, obviously that is what is included in the summary screen when you go to from your real-time battle to your living world map. You see the summary of all the units that you built and what you want to be able to keep or disband. And obviously you can't keep any of them in Age of the Ring. But if you do a search up here, I'll show you something, what this actually kind of refers to a little bit. I'm going to look up Army Summary. Oops. And you'll see this under Transport Slot Count. Transport Slot Count, Small Horde. And you can see all of these different definitions. An Army Summary is one of them, obviously. And what that dash does is it just, removes that from being operable. So Army Summary is operable up here. Go all the way down, put a dash in front of it, and voila, it's no longer operable. So what you're supposed to do in order to get the persistent unit to carry over, or the unit to carry over as a persistent unit, is you just simply delete this whole line right here. Get rid of it. And so I did that over here for the Lamedon Clansman. As you can see, it is completely gone. And of course, when you make these kinds of changes, you always want to go up to File and Save. And in Age of the Ring, you don't have to mess around with the big ini.big files or anything like that. It just automatically makes those changes for you. And I do go into more detail in that in the first episode about how you can actually modify those files. If you don't already know how, just go up to episode 1 in this series of mine, the modding tutorials series. Alright, so I'm going to pull up the Age of the Ring mod, and I'm going to show you uh, exactly what has just, been activated.
We'll do what needs doing. We have answered the call. Shoulder those swords.
Alright, and you can see here that those few clansmen battalions that we made, boom, they are now part of our little army summary screen here where we can actually recruit them. This is how much it's going to cost us, just 1,000, and you can disband them. And as you can see, you can't do anything for, well, of course, we didn't actually put those in, but you know what I mean. It's just like in vanilla. So let's go ahead and we have our little garrison of Lamedon Clansmen. How cool is that? I mean, if you're really into the vanilla style, a lot of people, they prefer it that way. I'm a little mixed. I don't know exactly where I stand on some of that stuff. Sometimes it's pretty fun, and other times I really like the overhead map, but it's nice to know that I can, swap that out now if I prefer it, one way over the other while still playing Age of the Ring. And, it's going to take you a long time, of course, to actually go through every single unit horde and hero and in unit, however you want to do all of that. It's going to take some time for sure, but I'd love to see uh, I'd love to see an alternative brought back and just see what you could really do with it, just for the fun of it. So there you have it. There is, however, something very important to consider if you're very serious about actually bringing back persistent units. So in Age of the Ring, there's only so many units that are actually made in the real-time battles. As you might know, there's just a handful now. You don't get the full roster that you can make in the real-time battles like you could in the vanilla game. So you'd have to just only go over to those files that are available in those, or those for those units in those real-time battles. For the rest that are not, you'd have to go through a very complicated process that I don't know how to do, of making what are called child objects. You'd have to go through each and every single horde and, heroic unit, horde, etc. You'd have to do all of this complicated coding that I know absolutely nothing about. And that's just the beginning. If you want your AI to be able to do all of that, that's really over my head there. I just don't know. I just don't know, and I'd love to help you out on that. I just don't know, man. So, good luck on all of that if you're really serious about it. If you're not too sure on where to even begin with all of that, I would recommend going over to those the Third Age Online tutorials. I shared that in episode 1. Discord, the T3A Third Age Online Discord is another great place for more tutorials. The Revora forums, Revora, you might be able to find some old tutorials there to help you out with a lot of that stuff. But otherwise, it's a pretty interesting process, even just to make units persistent. And if you wanted to do something similar to that, or the exact opposite of that, I should say, with the vanilla game, it's equally problematic if you don't really know anything about modding. You'd think that you'd only just be able to go into each of the files, the horde files, and just put in child object and then the kind of dash army summary line, but that is not it at all. You got to know how to do all the child object stuff there. Um, it's it's wild. So that's about it in a nutshell for this video, folks. Um, I wish I could help you more, but if you have any more if you have any questions or concerns and all that, just let me know. Thanks.